everyone, it's Kristie here from KP Creatives with another video for Two Scrapbook Friends. Today I am using the really fun So Damn Much stamp and die set from Lawn Fawn and the new Tim Holtz Lumberjack Plaid Distress Oxide color to create a fun Valentine's card. So I'm going to be stamping part of some of the stamps in the Distress Oxide Lumberjack Plaid. I'm going to set that off to the side for a second. I've also done some die cutting out of some Nina Solar White 110-pound cardstock is the White Heart, and then out of Concord & Ninth Cranberry cardstock. I love the rich red of this color. So I'm cut those out, and I'm going to layer those up from the two die cuts. The die cuts are actually from the Gina K Designs Master Layout 4 set. So the Gina K Designs Master Layouts are a great investment to have in your craft room. Also good for scrapbook layouts or many different types of memory keeping. So I've got the cranberry cardstock. I have one piece here. You can see again how rich that red is. I've dry embossed a heart stencil. This is the Scattered Hearts stencil from Simple Stories. It came out a couple of years ago, and I've run that through my die cut machine on the dry embossing setting. So I have a Big Shot. If you have a Big Shot, you can check the manual for the correct sandwich. I'm going to show you quickly what sandwich I use for dry embossing with the Big Shot. So this is my platform here. There's a new one now. My machine is older, so this is the one that I have. You want to flip this over so you are using platform number 1. I don't know if you can see the tab here. Hang on, let me scoot this over a little bit. Tab 1. That's what you want to be working on. Then you're going to put down a metal shim, the embossing plate that comes with the machine, the rubber mat that comes with the machine, your cardstock, your stencil, and your regular cutting plate. So that is the sandwich that you want to follow in the Big Shot. Again, you might want to play around with it a little bit for the shims and things like that. Every machine is a little bit different, but check the instructions for your machine. You can then run that through the Big Shot and you'll get that great detail of the dry embossing, which really makes your stencils go a long way. So there's another video on the channel using the same technique on some of the Concord & Ninth Rose Gold cardstock, and it really holds up well. So you can see how much more you can get out of your stencils by using a technique like this. Okay, so let's start to layer things up here before we get into stamping on the die cuts. So I'm going to take some of the Lawn Fawn liquid glue onto the back of a heart. This is a great strong adhesive. You really don't need too much. A little goes a long way. And I'm going to layer this up. You can see how nicely these die cuts work together. Again, these are from the Gina K Designs Master Layout 4 set. Then I'm going to put some liquid glue on the back of this white heart. And we're going to put this right on top of our card front. Just eyeballing it there. I think that's fairly center. And give that a good press so that we know it's making contact, because we do have a little bit of detail with those embossed hearts. So we want to make sure that's really going to set up well. Okay, so I'm going to put that off to the side. Now we're going to get into the sentiment of the card. I've die cut 2 of the beavers out, and I've stacked them with the Nina Solar White Classic Crest 110-pound cardstock. So we're going to stamp onto that piece. I've also die cut 2 of the little hearts, so we'll stamp those as well. And I have already stamped the sentiment, "Love you so damn much." Now, you will notice that in the actual stamp, there is an eye there. And for the card that I was making, the eye kind of stood out too far on the sentiment. And also this card is from my husband and I to some family members. So I didn't want it to just say I. So I cut the stamp. And I know that can be a little scary to cut your stamp. We invest a lot in our craft supplies, but it doesn't matter. They go back together so easily. So you could, if you didn't want to cut it, you could mask off the eye, or you could just stamp the whole thing. But I think this turned out great. I stamped it in VersaFine Onyx Black ink and then embossed it in clear. So that is going to be the sentiment that we pop on our card. So now I'm going to get out the beaver stamp and the heart stamp, and we're going to put these into the MISTI. Now I have saved the piece of cardstock that I cut these out of, and I'm going to show you why that is really going to help us for the placement of our stamps. So first we're going to get the beavers. Doesn't matter where I'm stamping them at this point. I'm going to bring in the Distress Oxide Lumberjack Plaid, ink them up, ink up our stamp. This is a brand new ink pad because the color is so new, so it's nice and juicy. And I'm just stamping this on scrap paper in the MISTI. So totally random, doesn't matter where it is. Now I'm going to bring in the piece that I die cut my little beaver critters out of here. And I'm just going to line this up so that it has an even margin all around the stamp. And this is going to make sure that we have perfect placement of our stamp. So that looks good. I'm going to put my magnets down. And the trick is you have to remember where you put your die cut image to be able to stamp it. So there we go. We found it with relatively little trouble. Okay, so then it just pops right in there like a puzzle piece. Fantastic. So if you struggle lining up die cuts, this is a great way to be able, there's many different ways to get really good results. This is one. I'm going to bring in my smusher tool from Maker Forte so that we get a nice impression. And that looks fantastic. So I'm going to pop this little piece out. And we have our little critters stamped nice and crisp. Now, if you're new to Distress Oxides, they do stay wet a little bit longer than dye inks. So just kind of set that aside. You don't want to mess around with it too much. I'm going to take the beaver stamp off, and we're going to do the exact same process with the heart stamp. So I've got the heart stamp here. Just going to put it randomly, ink it up, press into the MISTI, bring in our template, get it nice, even margin around each side. That looks good. Get our magnets to hold, oops, sorry about that. And now we're going to see, I should have, oh dear, I should have set the heart aside. There it is. My goodness, I need a little, I have about 1 million little trays in my craft room, and clearly I should have one handy for little die cuts. So I'm inking up the heart, closing the door of the MISTI, giving that a nice press, and there we go. All right, so I'm gonna bring in my tweezers because this is really tiny. There we go. Now I'm going to save this template so that next time I use this Stampin' Die set, I have that handy. So I really like to do that with any of my Stampin' Die sets where I'm going to be using coordinating dies. It makes it really easy to line things up and you get great results. So now we're going to bring in our card panel, and we have our sentiment strip, our little critters, and the heart. So while the little critters and the heart Distress Oxide are still drying, I am going to put some foam tape on the back of our card panel here. Just give this whole panel a little bit of dimension. There we go. This is going to make sure it's nice and sturdy, holds up great in the mail. All right. Now we'll pop, actually before we put the release paper off, we'll get this sentiments all set up in our little focal point here. So I'm going to put some liquid glue on the back of the sentiments. So we've got the beavers here. They're going to go right in the middle. Just give that a nice little press. Then we're going to get, I'm actually going to bring in some of the pixie dots. So I don't use these often in my crafting, but in this case, I think they will really help because I just want to get a little bit of loft on each of the edges of the sentiment. So I'm going to get a dot, one on each end, and that's going to give me just a little bit of loft on either side, because if I use foam tape, I think it'll be too high. So I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue for the middle there and get this down onto the heart. That looks great. And then a little bit of glue on the back of the heart here. Bring in the tweezers and put this right at the bottom. Fantastic. Okay, so there we go. Now all that's left is to take off the release paper and put this onto our card front. I have a standard portrait A2 card. So this is 4 1/4 across by 5 1/2 inches tall. So it's an 8 1/2 by 11 piece of paper, cut in the middle at 4 1/4 and scored at 5 1/2. Gonna put some liquid adhesive on the back here so that I have a little bit of wiggle room when we put this on our card front. Gonna bring in the secret weapon ruler so we can get a nice even margin all around the card base, because our cranberry cardstock here is cut at 4 inches by 5 1/4. And there we go. There is our finished card project for today, using the great So Damn Much Stampin' Die set from Lawn Fawn that was released this year. I think it's so cute and really, really great. So again, we just mixed it up a little by cutting off, or you could mask the eye on the sentiment stamp, and did some dry embossing on that gorgeous cranberry cardstock from Concord and 9th. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have a moment, please subscribe to the channel. You'll get notified when we post new videos. You can give this video a thumbs up, and we will see you next time.